Did you know that knowing who you are is the key to all of your manifestations? It's true. It's true. It's all about self-knowledge. It's all about self-knowledge. That's it. That's it. And I will explain to you why. First, I want to introduce myself. I'm Monica Joe. This is Kibby. He will be in a lot of my videos because he's a baby who loves attention, loves to interrupt, loves when I start talking to the camera, loves to play and to wrestle, loves to wrestle. He's so baby. He's barely, he's such a ragdoll, noodle baby. And he's just about one, which means he's still learning not to bite too hard when we play. But he's gotten more gentle. He doesn't pull his claws out when we wrestle anymore. And I'm very proud of him. My little son. My Kibby. Okay. Kib. Anyway. I'm Monica Jove. I'm a trans guy. I'm a spiritualist. I am a lifelong scholar of the human spirit and of what we can do with it as a power, right? A lot of people go into physical masteries, intellectual masteries. I I like the spiritual mastery, the emotional, Kib, gentle, the emotional mastery that comes as part of that. Anyway, I am a really good manifester, a scholar of self-sovereignty as well, and I want to share what I've learned in the last several years of my life and truly throughout my life about those things with you, because I think everyone deserves to have the sort of knowledge of self and empowerment of self, Kib, that I've found through living and studying. Kibby, that's too hard. You're biting too hard. You're biting too hard. Okay. Anyway. Kib, and of course, as soon as I pulled the toy out, he doesn't want to play with the toy. He wants to chew on my arm. He's so crazy. He already spilled my coffee this morning while I was trying to film for TikTok, and it was more of a Rorschach test before when I was dabbing it up, but now it's just blurred into a mess. Whatever. Anyway. Nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here. You're still here. Okay. Anyway. Let's talk about manifestation, right? Let's talk about what it is. Let's talk about him. He's like stalking me. It's the minute I start talking. As soon as I pause, he's like, he'll go off camera, he'll settle down, he'll lay down, and then the minute I'm talking and engaging with the camera again, he has to come hunt me down and start eating me. He's crazy. He's a crazy baby Kib. Anyway. Manifestation. A lot of times we align manifestation with an idea of goals, with an idea of separation from oneself. And you'll hear a lot of spiritual practitioners talk about unifying oneself with the manifestation, and that's how you bring it in, you know, and they talk about a lot of ways of collapsing the realities so that the one in which you see yourself currently being in and the one in which you see your manifestation being in become one, right? And I love the metaphor of that. I really love the visualization, the idea behind that, and honestly, it helped me a lot as I was learning in my manifestation journey. But what I've come to understand and see as a much more helpful lens of understanding manifestation is that it is never anything external that you're actually manifesting. Truly, what you're manifesting is a version of self, right? Like, let's say you are a creative and you want to start a creative independent business. You know, we have a lot of creatives and entrepreneurs coming out of this particular time, this particular time period. And a lot of that is influenced by economic world powers and, you know, the access of the internet and this rise of humanity countering the rise of AI, and you know, there's a lot of larger forces at play that are encouraging this surge of creative entrepreneurship. So you might find yourself in that demographic, right? Feeling called towards that. And let's say you have that desire. Let's say you have that dream of creative entrepreneurship, and you see a world in which you are making independent income from an internally derived creative gift that you bring to the world, right? That's what you're manifesting. That's what you're dreaming of. That's what you're writing in your journal. That's what your 369, that is the thing that you're thinking of when you're doing O method, right? Like whatever techniques you have, that is the goal that you're framing, right? And this is where I think we end up having this split that can sometimes delay our progress towards manifestations, right? Is where we understand the concept, the idea, the thing we want, and it becomes a goal. And there becomes a logical progression to get to that goal. Because there are two things, like there's a lot of different ways to form a desire for an action and then to follow through on that action. There's a logical action, right? Driven by a linear frame of thought of there's this thing, and to get there, certain things need to happen that I have to engage in, right? And then there's intuitive action, which is not, like, may correlate, right? Sure, there's correlation, there's overlap in the Venn diagram of intuitive and logical action, but they're independently driven, and intuitive action is not always going to align with what logical action might be in the moment, or impulsive action might be in the moment. And discerning between impulse and intuition and logic, these are all finer points that we'll talk about, I'm sure, later on. But anyway, there's a divergence here where often we get into a dependency on what a logical progression towards that manifestation would be, and we tend to focus on what that external reality would look like more than anything else. And it's important to visualize that. It's important to have the concept, to have the vision. But what's more important is understanding why, understanding who, who you are in that. We're understanding what it is about that brings you fulfillment in the idea, that brings you motivation in action, right? I'm gonna pause for a second, gather my thought. All right, let's keep talking about that example, right? What you're likely seeking in that future is security financially, emotionally, personally. What you're seeking is maybe a feeling of power, a feeling of self-sufficiency and of ability to enact change and impact in the world. That'll often depend on maybe what you're thinking of bringing into the entrepreneurship space, what you see as the product, the service to the people around you, whether you see it as a product or a service, and these are things, this is stuff to ask yourself, truly, to ask and to understand, what do I seek from that manifestation? What does that tell me about who I see myself as, who I see myself wanting to be? That is the core that we're getting to here, right? If you're seeking from that manifestation more time in your creative energy, more time connected to the sacral, a lot of people are going to tie it to that. It's a moment of embodied movement, humanity, creation, even sensuality within yourself. It's whether it's a physical or a digital medium or a pattern of thought, that you are gifting in this entrepreneurship scenario. It's being in tune with that creative force inside yourself that you're also manifesting, right? And to do that, Kimmy is distracting me because I saw him walk in the background. Once you understand what you're looking for out of the manifestation, you are now understanding two things, vital things. And again, that's who you see yourself as right now and who you see yourself as capable of being. And I want you to understand that if you're imagining that future in which you've got that, you do see yourself as capable of achieving that. You've looked around, you've seen what other people can do, you've seen what other people have achieved, and you've understood, I as a human person, and I'm just as capable of achieving that as everyone who's already achieved it. I'm just as able, and I want that for myself. And then you see yourself as who you are right now, and you see that version as maybe not being capable, as maybe not having that, and really what determines the space between those things is how many obstacles you believe there to be, how many challenges you perceive yourself as needing to overcome, both in an external sense and in an internal sense. And oftentimes, when we're trying to manifest something, we will perceive and thus create more obstacles than there actually are between us and the manifestation, because there has to be a justification, there has to be a process, there has to be a transformation between us not having the thing and us not being someone who has that influence, that power, that connection to our creative selves, and the us that has it, right? The us that has it. The collapse comes from understanding that it's one decision, that you consistently make, and then the world around you will shape to that. That's it. That's what collapses this when they say collapse those realities, right? It's understanding what I want out of life is to be connected to my creative self. Let's take that one as the example. So if I'm over here and I want all of this out of connecting to my creative self, all I have to do, whether or not the manifestation comes in, is make the time now, here, to be in my creative self. I'm not waiting for inspiration to strike. I'm setting a timer, and I'm spending 5 minutes a day staring at the lyrics in my notebook. I'm spending 5 minutes a day sketching what I would sculpt out of clay. I'm spending 5 minutes a day pulling out the clay. I'm spending 5 minutes a day pulling out the paints. I'm spending 5 minutes a day, designing a business structure. I'm spending 5 minutes a day creating a video idea. I'm spending 5 minutes a day posting. I'm spending 5 minutes a day, just anything towards that goal, anything within that connection to the creative self. I'm spending 5 minutes a day looking in the mirror, just 5 minutes, and imagining and embodying that creative energy in myself. And you can do any of those. It's 5 minutes a day. You do whatever it is that you need to do to feel that creative energy. And ta-da, you've manifested it. I swear. The manifestation is done. Done. Genuinely done. And all you have to do now is maintain consistency. All you have to do now is maintain vision, maintain gratitude for the energy that you've just accessed. What you wanted out of life was a connection to your creative self. What you wanted out of life was for that to affect somebody. A, it's already affecting you. B, if you've posted, at least one person has seen it. At least one person will view something that you post on the internet, if that is what you're wanting. And they will be affected by it. Maybe that impact is small. Maybe it's just one person. You have achieved the goal. You have achieved the goal because you took the action, period. End of story. That's literally it. That is literally it. You've done the manifestation. And now, once you have taken a singular action into being that version of yourself, into having the things that you want in life, because you've determined you can. You've determined you're already that person. That's what they mean when they say you're already that person. What they mean is, if you take that action one time, in that moment, you are that person. You have that thing. You're experiencing the energy that you want. And then, when you consistently show up for yourself, you're just more and more that person. You're just more and more that manifestation. You're already there. And you, it's done. It's done. And you just have to hold the change you've made. You just have to make more sustainable the change you've made. And the world will start to reflect that around you. If your priority truly is to tune into that creative side of yourself, you're going to end up spending less time doom scrolling. You genuinely will be getting more of a reward out of touching that creative energy with yourself than you will about consuming other people's content about touching that creative energy within themselves. You know, and you will be able to slowly, consistently build towards the sustainable life you want, you know? And that is truly another key to the manifesting, right? Is understanding that these things take time, understanding that a gym process takes time to get to the body goals you want, understanding that a spiritual process takes time to get to the spiritual goals you want, an emotional process takes time to get to the emotional result you want. A relationship, it takes time to build language, to build understanding, to build between two more people in love, in business, in whatever, right? In friendship. It takes time to build things for them to be sustainable, for them to be such a part of the fabric of how you define yourself and how you define your world, that it's not removable after that point unless you choose. Unless you choose that you no longer want to be a person that in tune with their creative energy, right? You have to understand it's independent of anything outside of you. It's independent of how, you know, and this is, again, what they mean when they say don't get attached to how the manifestation comes in. You may have a specific vision for how many followers or where the money actually comes from, right? If we're sticking to this entrepreneurship example, what you need to do is understand that the world will respond to your action, but you cannot predict perfectly how that will happen. And so you just need to keep creating space. You just need to keep creating consistency. You just need to keep creating opportunity, and then accept that when it comes in. Accept that if it comes in on a different platform or through a different creative thing, you know, if you've got multiple creative outlets in multiple areas, the one you maybe didn't want to pop off might be the one to pop off, you know? And like that's, like you have to maintain a level of acceptance for the way the 3D reality will respond to you, you know? Because it's about you. It's about you being in the center of that energy. You're always going to be experiencing it, no matter how the 3D reacts to it, no matter which people are involved, because everyone's got their own agency, right? No matter how that comes in, you are within that energy of influence, that energy of creative expression, that selfhood, that identity of success and fulfillment that you've been desiring. The connection that you're wanting to create between you and other people is there, regardless of who you're connecting with, if you stay in the energy of genuine connection. Okay? We are almost at 20 minutes here, so I'm gonna wrap up and just, yeah, we've defined what manifestation is, right? We've defined how I function on an idea of manifestation, and going forward we will talk more about how to discern that identity and how to discern between the intuition, the impulse, the logic. You know, we'll talk more about creating pathways and creating consistency and creating understanding with yourself towards manifestations, and we'll talk more about how I learned about it. I love you. I love you first and foremost, always and forever. And I'm I'm here on YouTube, Annika Jove. I'm on TikTok, Annika Jove. I'm all over, I guess. I'm mainly there. But I've got other things coming up. I do a lot of. We're gonna be growing. We're gonna be growing as a platform, as my expression, because I have a lot of things to say, and I'm excited to grow and to share and be a part of this with you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you around.